welcome to my channel, Past Papers 101 with Miss Edwards. So today what we're going to be looking at is Integrated Science Paper 2 2019 CSEC. So if you have not gone through the paper as yet, this is a good chance to see what the paper is about and get some revision in preparation for your exams. So section A. The first question. Mr. Singh has converted part of his farm into a forest by planting trees for lumber. After 2 years, the trees have started to produce sweet-smelling, brightly colored flowers. Mr. Singh notices the appearance of new plants growing in the area. State one advantage of sexual reproduction. The answer would be sexual reproduction causes genetic diversity or genetic variations in offspring. Next question. Name the part of the male flower that produces pollen. The answer is the anther. Next question. State two changes which take place in the flower after pollination. The options are: the ovary swells up to become the fruit, 2, the petals fall off, and 3, the ovules become seeds. So remember, when you're looking at pollination and it asks you what happens afterwards, usually we know that the fruit develops. So the options are: the ovary swells up, the petals fall off, and the ovules become seeds. Next question. Give one reason why plants produce sweet-smelling, brightly colored flowers. And this should be easy. They do this to attract insect pollinators. Next question. Explain how the movement of water in plants keep the air in the forested area cool and damp. The response I have is that during hot days, plants lose water through transpiration when water is lost through their leaves. The more water that leaves the plant helps to cool down the forest because not much sunlight gets through forest trees because they are close together. This is what helps to keep the forest area cool and damp. So the more the plants lose water, the more water vapor is in the forest to keep it cool and damp. Next question. Mr. Singh notices that the plants grow faster during the wet season with periods of sunshine than in the dry season. Suggest one reason for this observation. When plants have enough water, then they're going to photosynthesize and then they're going to grow more. So the reason for this observation is that the plants need water for photosynthesis, so they grow faster when they have enough water than in the dry season. And that's 1 mark. The next question says, as the trees grow, they block the wind from several pig pens. The pig pens then become too warm and humid for the animals and workers. Suggest 3 effects that this warm and humid environment may have on the workers. Now, if it says suggest, they're asking you to give ideas. They don't necessarily come from your textbook, but they can be the thoughts or the ideas you have in your head that could be a solution, or that could be one of the things they're asking you for. So suggestions are usually there so that you can gain marks. So what I have workers may begin to feel fatigue, workers may faint, persons may have hyperthermia or overheat. You could also say that they're going to sweat a lot. You can also say that they may become dehydrated. You may say that they also become nauseous or vomit. So it depends on what comes to your mind when you hear suggestions. So these are 3, but you can always add more. Next question, it says recommend 2 modifications that could be made to the structure of the pig pens to make them cooler. So you're thinking about how they could fix the problem so that the pig pens are cooler. I have 1, build pig pens facing north, south, and not east, west to avoid too much sunlight. And 2, use wood or decorative blocks to allow air to pass through the pig pens. If you have any other suggestions or any other recommendations, you can add this as well. But those are 2 to go by. And that's for 2 marks. Next question. A farm worker measures and calculates the average circumference of 4 trees twice a year and records the results in table 1. State an appropriate title for the table. Now the answer is there already. Table showing the average circumference for trees over a few years. That's what I have. If you have table showing the average circumference for trees over and then you state the number of years, that could also work. But that is 1 mark. And the table they're referring to is this table right here. Now it says on 2 for the same question, on the grid on page 9, plot a graph to represent the data in table 1. Draw a straight line on the graph to show the trend. Extend this line to cut the x-axis and label the axes on the graph. So what we're going to do first is label the axes on the graph because it is the easiest thing to do. So here we have 2 sets of information. We have time, years, and average circumference in centimeters. Usually when you have a graph, we place time on the x-axis and your x-axis is here on the bottom. So when they ask you to label axes, they're just telling you to put the word in for the data that you're going to be recording. So here I have years, and on the other side I have average circumference would be your y-axis. Remember, you are given marks for labeling axes, so just by writing years or average circumference you get 2 marks, or any other piece of data. If you do not know which to place in each area, all you have to do is look at the scale that they give you. For the years, they start at 0 and go up by 0.5, then continually add 0.5, and on this side they go up by 5. So just use the data in your table to give you an idea of which pieces of data would be represented where. For years, you see that they have 0.5, 1.0, 1.5, 2.0, 2.5, 3.0, and 3.5. So obviously they would go on the x-axis here at the bottom, and you will be able to figure this out once you read your table. The next part of the question states that we should plot the graph to represent the data. Now, plotting the graph, you should be able to do this. All you have to do is find where both of your pieces of data correspond or they meet, and then you can plot that point. The first one, let's look at how this one should be done. Time in years is 0.5 and average circumference is 8. So what you're doing is to find where 0.5 and 8 meet on your graph. So you're going to look at where 0.5 is in time and see where average circumference 8 is, and where both pieces of data meet, that is where your first point would be. So we have here time being 0.5 and we have 8 over this side average circumference. So we have where 0.5 is, which is right here. So we just need to find where 8 is on our average circumference. Now they do not have the literal number 8 here written, but you can figure out where 8 should be. If here is 5 and in 5 more smaller strokes you get to 10, all you have to do is count. So 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 would be here, and then we know that we bring it out to meet the point for 0.5. because remember, we're looking to see where 0.5 and 8 both meet. So once we draw a little line, you don't usually draw a line to show them, but you can make a little dotted line if you need to pinpoint where you're going to put your point. Once you find the location where both of them meet, then you're going to put a little dot and make a bigger circle around it just to make sure you have secured your first point. And you will continue to do the rest for the other pieces of data in your table. Now I have done this already, and so this is why you see my graph plotted like this and has all the points going up, and that would give you a total of 4 marks to plot your points. Now the next question says you're going to draw a straight line on the graph to show the trend. Extend this line to cut the x-axis. So let's look at the graph. So we have here this line. Once you have your points plotted, you draw a straight line through your points, and once you draw a straight line through your points, you extend it, and that would be your answer for that one, and that's 2 marks. The next part of the question asks, using the graph, determine the average circumference of the trees after 5 years. All you do is find 5 years on your x-axis. You bring a line up to cut the straight line that you drew through your points, and wherever it touches your straight line you drew through the points, you're going to find the number it corresponds with on the other axes, and that would give you your answer. So at 5 years, the circumference would be 60 centimeters. The next question, using the graph, determine the average circumference of the trees at planting. What you would do is look at the initial time on your x-axis. You bring it up to where it would touch that line you drew, and you carry it across to see the average circumference it would have. I have here, it is at 4 centimeters. So at 4 centimeters would be the answer for that one, and that's 1 mark. Moving on. Identify the producer and the carnivore in the aquatic food chain below. We have the sun, arrow, seaweed, arrow, snapper, arrow, shark. The questions are the producer, which would be the seaweed, the carnivore, which would be the shark. 2 marks. Next question, name a method that can be used to purify seawater for drinking and outline the process involved. 1, you have filtration of the water first by straining to remove large objects, then boiling to separate the salt from the water. The water vapor that is being collected from the boiling water should be collected and cooled for drinking. That is the only way to make seawater drinkable or potable. Next question, state Archimedes' principle. Archimedes' principle states that the upward force on a body that is partially or fully submerged is equal to the weight of the amount of fluid displaced. Next question, 2 blocks of wood of the same volume but different masses are afloat in the sea. Suggest one reason why one block will float higher than the other block. A common answer would have been one will float because it is less dense than the other, and that is 1 mark. Next question, many communities depend on fishing as a source of income. Fishing, however, can be hazardous, especially in the ocean, because of changes in the weather and other natural occurrences. Identify one navigational device that could assist fishermen at sea. Answers could be the compass, or a map, or a GPS system. If there are other navigational devices you can suggest those as well. The next question, suggest 3 ways in which the habitat of fish may change after the eruption of an underwater volcano. And remember again, the word suggest means that you tell what you would have in your head as an idea for the answer. Suggestions does not necessarily mean that it is coming from a textbook. 1. Habitats may get destroyed because of lava. 2. The rise in temperature of the water from the lava causes coral reefs to get bleached and die. 3. Chemicals from the ash from the eruption may change the pH of the water. If you have any other suggestions, those may also be accepted. Next question. Line fishing, the setting of pots or traps, and spears or harpoons are often used for catching fish. Suggest giving one reason which of these methods would be most suitable for catching fish for commercial purposes. Now, my answer is spears or harpoons, and the reason for my answer is that large fish can be caught and there is no loss of equipment, and only mature fish of good size are removed from the sea. And that would be a total of 2 marks. If you think that there is another method that you could use for commercial purposes that is better than spears or harpoons, you suggest it and give your reasons for suggesting that as the answer. The next question says, suggest giving one reason which of the fishing methods may be destructive. I have setting pots or traps, and my reason: this may be destructive because sometimes pots can be lost on the seafloor and destroy habitats or cause injury to fish. 2 marks. Next question. State whether the following organs in the digestive system have an acidic or alkaline environment. The mouth is alkaline, the stomach is acidic, and the gallbladder is also alkaline. So those are 3 marks. Name one enzyme in the digestive system that functions best in an acidic environment. The answer would be pepsin, and pepsin is the enzyme we find in the stomach that helps to break down protein. Now, Mary adds 5 drops of liquid soap to a bottle, half filled with spring water, places the cover and shakes it vigorously for about 1 minute. She notices very little lather forms in the bottle. When the same activity is repeated with rainwater, the bottle becomes filled with lather. Explain 2 disadvantages of using spring water for domestic purposes. Now, this question is basically telling about hard water and soft water. Hard water is water that has been run over rocks and usually contains dissolved minerals. So the spring water that she used in the bottle is hard. So that is why it prevents the soap from actually forming lather due to these minerals dissolved in the water. Now, rainwater has not run over any rocks and is caught directly in catchment, so it doesn't contain any dissolved nutrients or minerals. So it does allow soap to work and form lather. So they're asking 2 disadvantages of using spring water for domestic purposes or hard water, and a disadvantage would be 1, it contains dissolved minerals that can sometimes cause your appliances to become damaged due to the small particles they cause build up, such as in steam irons or even electric kettles. And 2, it can lead to staining due to mineral deposits. So when used to clean, it can leave staining on windows, on floors, or even pots and pans. It leaves white residues. Next question, suggest 3 ways in which Mary could make the spring water create more lather when soap is added. 3 suggestions of treating spring water or hard water would be: 1, to use a water softener. That would be like your fabric softener for your clothes. 2, adding vinegar to water before using soap. And 3, boiling water before use. Moving on. While checking a car battery, a mechanic accidentally spilled some acid on the floor. Define the term neutralization. Now, neutralization is the reaction between an acid and an alkali to produce a salt and water. Suggest one household chemical that would be suitable for neutralizing the acid, and that would be bleach. Recommend 2 precautions that the mechanic could take or should take when cleaning up this spill. The answer would be: avoid skin contact with acid by wearing gloves. 2, wear a mask to prevent inhaling acidic fumes. And you could have any more recommendations. You could say that the person uses a face shield. You could say the person uses rubber boots, etc. Next question. State what is meant by the efficiency of a machine. The efficiency of a machine is the ability of that machine to use energy for the required task without wasting energy as heat. Next question. State one factor that can affect the efficiency of a machine and one method that can be used to overcome the effect. I have friction as my factor, and the method of reducing friction would be decreasing the friction by applying grease to working parts. Next question. Figure 2 shows a car engine on the ground near the tray of a truck. The car engine has a mass of 2,500 newtons and is resting on the ground 1.5 meters below the tray of the truck. Recommend a simple machine that may be used to lift the car engine from the ground to the tray of the truck. The answer would be a pulley. Outline how the machine named in B above works to move the engine from the ground to the tray. The answer would be looping a rope over one or more wheels and then attaching the object to one end of the rope and applying a force to the other end in order to raise the object. The next question. A lever is also a simple machine. Suggest one reason why it is not the most suitable for lifting the engine from the ground to the tray of the truck. My answer is that more force would be needed to lift the engine than that of the pulley. Next question. In lifting the engine, potential energy is gained. State the formula which can be used to calculate the potential energy that is gained when the car engine is lifted. Since it's asking for potential energy, the formula for potential energy is PE equals mgh, where PE is potential energy, m is mass, G is gravitational acceleration or gravitational field strength in physics, and H is height. So from the question, the formula for calculating potential energy gain would be mgh. The next question asks us to calculate the energy converted in lifting the engine onto the tray using a machine. So it's basically asking you to calculate the potential energy that we just found or wrote the chemical formula, the formula for, or the equation for. So the question gives us the mass as 2,500 newtons. It gives us the gravity. It doesn't give us the gravity, but gravity is given as 9.81. In some cases, persons just use 10. And the height is 1.5 meters above the tray or below the tray of the truck. So our answer would be 36,787.5 joules because it's asking about energy. So 36,787.5 joules. And that's for 2 marks. Next question. Explain why the potential energy gained by the engine when lifted by a simple machine is the same as when the energy is lifted manually. It's because energy is conserved. It takes the same amount of energy to do the work, and all the factors are constant. So it's the same height and it's the same load or mass. Next question. The owner of the tray truck is considering using solar cells instead of diesel to operate the truck. Suggest 3 problems that may be encountered when implementing this idea. Answers would be: solar panels are dependent on the weather, so if there is no sun, then there is no energy. 2, solar panels may be expensive to set up initially. 3, solar panels would probably get damaged by any load the truck places on the tray. And 4, it's not efficient. Efficiency would also tie in with the response given first. Next question, and we're at section B. There are 2 questions in this section. In order for the body to function properly, body systems must work together. Name the process that occurs in muscle tissue that requires oxygen. The answer would be respiration. Describe the role of the circulatory system in ensuring that oxygen reaches the muscle. 1. Oxygenated blood is transported to organs through the pumping of the heart, and oxygen is delivered in the blood from the heart to the muscles through diffusion across blood vessels. Next question. In urban areas, life can be very fast-paced. Mr. Sam does not exercise and his meals are high in saturated fats. Mr. Sam is hypertensive. He has high blood pressure. Explain how Mr. Sam's eating habits may have affected his circulatory system and contributed to him developing hypertension. 1. The fatty foods cause fat to become deposited in his blood vessels. If the blood vessels are blocked, then less blood will be able to pass through at a time, and this will lead to high blood pressure. And I always tell my students to imagine using a watering hose. If you have the hose just as is, then the pressure is relatively normal. However, if you place your thumb in front of the end of the hose where the water is, you realize that it will shoot out faster, because if you close the opening, then the same amount of water must also get through the smaller hole, so you see it shooting out at a higher pressure. It is the same thing that happens in blood vessels. So that's for 4 marks. Next question. Lack of exercise may have contributed to Mr. Sam's hypertension. Discuss 2 other possible effects of the lack of exercise on Mr. Sam's body. So if it says discuss, you cannot just give a suggestion, but you must now go on to explain, talk about this suggestion or talk about the answers that you have given. So I have here obesity as one other effect of lack of exercise, and obesity can lead to excessive weight, which is obesity is excessive weight gain. This would cause Mr. Sam to have a poor quality of life, as it would be difficult to walk, probably get a job, maybe even travel on an aircraft or on a bus. It would decrease his quality of life. So obesity, you talk about the weight gain. The second one I have is diabetes. The lack of exercise can also lead to high blood sugar or diabetes. You talk about the fact that he may be on insulin for the rest of his life. He may be dependent on this medication. He can have amputations if his diabetes gets to a point where the sugar crystallizes in his limbs, usually the foot. So you discuss these effects that may occur as a result of lack of exercise. Next question. Mr. Sam purchased a gym machine that works on a pulley system. While exercising, he exerts a force of 500 newtons to raise a weight of 100 newtons. Calculate the mechanical advantage MA of the machine using the formula MA, load over effort, and show your working. So you have the formula already. You have the two pieces of information. They say the force he's exerting is 500 newtons, and to raise the weight which is at 100 newtons, and the formula is load over effort. So the only thing that you need to figure out is what is the load and what is the effort. For this one, the weight of 100 newtons is the load and 500 newtons is the effort he's using to raise that load or that weight, and the answer would be 100 N's divided by 500 N's would give you 0.2 as your mechanical advantage. Next question. Kishan's home has been flooded overnight by a river. Heavy rains caused the river to overflow its banks. His washing machine, television, refrigerator, and food cupboards are now under muddy water 1 meter deep. Water has also entered the electrical outlets in the wall. Discuss 2 hazards which may result from the flood water. And remember, these are hazards. It does not specifically say electrical hazards. So you think about any dangerous situation. I have 1, slip and fall due to the wet floor. 2, waterborne diseases from bacteria in the dirty river water. 3, there could be electrical shock due to water getting into the electrical sockets. 4, there could also be an electrical fire due to water getting in the sockets. So that's for 4. But the question only asks you for 2, and remember, if it says discuss, you give a little information as to how these hazards may occur. For B, the next part of the question, it says for each hazard identified above, describe 2 safety procedures that must be adopted to avoid further accidents. So slip and fall, I said you could clean up the spills quickly by wearing rubber shoes. 2, waterborne diseases, you could wear rubber pants and shoes to avoid contact with the water, avoid standing in deep areas of water. 3, electrical shock, turn off the breakers, distribution board and plug out your appliances. 4, turn off the breaker and plug out the appliances to reduce or prevent the electrical fires. Next question. Kishan uses an iron heater which has a label that states the voltage as 110 V's and the current at 2 A's. Calculate the electrical resistance of its heating element using the formula R equals V over I. Now, V there represents the voltage and I also represents the current. So you have 110 volts divided by 2 amperes, which would give you 55 ohms. The reason why the question is worth 3 marks is because you are plugging in the information into the formula, and also they want you to show your working, and they also want the unit or the unit for electrical resistance, which would be ohms. Next question. Wires used in the electrical system of the home consist of an inner section made of one type of material. This inner section is covered by an outer section made of another material. Explain how the choice of materials for the inner and outer sections is determined. So they're asking you about the wire. The inner material of a wire must be a conductor, and it is usually a metal, and this is used to conduct electricity because it has electrons that can carry an electric charge. The outer material is usually rubber and is an insulator, which is used to protect persons from electrical shock and also to prevent loss of energy from the electricity being conducted. And that is the end of the test. So this is the end of Integrated Science CSEC paper 2 2019. If you have any suggestions of any papers you want to see, just leave it in the comments below. Remember to like, remember to share with your classmates in preparation for your exams, and see you soon where we go through another paper.